sitting here letting my pickup warm up for a few minutes. In the last video, I was having a little bit of overheating issues with my truck. Turns out after we pressure tested the radiator cap, we found out that had no pressure in it. And we also pressure tested the radiator, found a leak there. Brought the radiator up to a guy to have it repaired. They thought that they could repair it. They did patch it and it will hold pressure right now, but they didn't think it would last very long. So we're gonna have to go ahead and replace the core in my radiator. That puts me down another week. So in total, be like a week and a half waiting for the core to get here. And then once they have it, it won't take but maybe a day to put it all together. But in total, I'll be down for 2 weeks. In my truck, the way that I run, every day that I run, I'm turning close to $1,000 a day. I run 5 days a week usually, so that's about $10,000 in lost revenue. Of course, it's not completely out of pocket because I'd have fuel costs, but I'd calculate that I'm losing about $5,000-ish, just in downtime. The cost to have that done is like about, we'll say $1,700 for the actual core and all that. I'm pulling the radiator. I pulled the radiator out myself. I'm gonna put it back in myself. I'll just have a couple of extra hands just to lift it up into the truck. Other than that, I'm doing all that labor myself, which helps a lot. But these are the kind of costs when you get into trucking that it's really, really hard to account for. And I've done very well on breakdowns in my trucking operation. I really don't have a lot to complain about. I've lost some time, but I also run an older truck. And when I am down, I'm down for a very minimal amount of time. Like in this situation, I'm literally just waiting for parts. It's not like I'm waiting in line to get my truck serviced because I'm doing that work myself. It's just, you can only get the parts in a certain amount of time. There's no way to magically get them faster. So I think overall I've done amazing as far as that goes. I really have no complaints. However, I only have the one truck. So when my truck is down, I have zero income and all my expenses continue to go, right? So the insurance, as an example, I don't even want to get into a whole conversation about the insurance because I had some issues with it before, but we've got that resolved. But as an example, I'm paying like $350 a week in insurance, right? Some people don't even make $350 a week, working 40 hours a week. And, so I'm very fortunate to be able to have a business where I can cover that. But on the other side of that coin, when you have that fixed cost, you can't just turn it off because your truck is broken. You've got to pay it, right? So things like that still accrue as an example. So it's a pretty tough thing to deal with. Plus, I'm about to have to renew my insurance here next month, so it really sucks to have downtime, at least right now. I've had months and multiple months strung together where I didn't have downtime, and that'd be right now that I need that because, like I said, I'm about to have to shell out some money for my insurance renewal. So hopefully I can time everything up right. But that kind of brings me to my point here. I'm really strongly thinking about getting a second truck, not necessarily to even put a driver in, at least not right now, but just so that when I have downtime, which is inevitable, all equipment breaks, right? And it's just redundancy, so that way I can continue to bring in income. But the key to all that is, being that I'm only one guy, I can only drive one truck at a time. The key to that whole calculus here is that it has to cost me less on a recurring basis to have that truck, or about the same, than what I will make in additional revenue by not having the downtime, right? So I'm basically not going to make a ton more money. I'm just going to zero out my downtime. And maybe in the future I will put a driver in that truck. But I've really learned through this whole experience that having backup trucks is critical to this. You need to have your money continually flowing. It's about cash flow, you know, and so that's what I've been thinking about doing here lately. Of course, it's the worst time possible. My truck's down. I'm losing thousands of dollars in downtime right now, and every time I start to think I'm getting a little bit ahead, I'll fix something and then be down for a little while, maybe overextend myself trying to get ahead on maintenance and then have something come up last minute. That's kind of what happened to me this time. And that's just kind of the way it goes when you're on this small of a scale. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm going through right now. So this is a truck that I'm looking at. I believe it's like a 2007 or a 2008 model. International 9200. And man, this thing's got a long frame on it. I don't know if you can really pick up how long it is. Maybe I'll take it off of the wide view. Maybe get the perspective a little bit better. But compared to my truck, man, this thing feels long. I drove it, what was it, yesterday? And yeah, it's definitely something to get used to. But this truck is a 10-speed with a Cummins ISM. My truck is a 9-speed with a Cummins big cam motor in it. And this one's got air ride, mine's spring ride. Man, look how long the frame is on this. I'm not sure how long the wheelbase is on this truck. I should measure it. But it's long. As you can probably tell, this is an old Oakley tanker truck. At one point in its life, it's set up for pulling tanks. It don't even have a sliding fifth wheel. It's got this bolt-on fifth wheel, you know. So with tanks, you know, you're not going to have to slide your fifth wheel pretty much ever. So they put bolt-on fifth wheels. It also has blocks on the fifth wheel. I'll probably may cut those out. Although it looks like the fifth wheel can move enough as it is, so I might not have to do that. I'm not sure yet on that deal. It doesn't have a wet line on it, so I don't think it ever did end dump. I don't know why they've got these blocks under it. But I drove it. It's like I never drove a truck before. Being that it's a 10-speed, you know, in my truck, when you go through the gears, it just has like a low gear all the way this way and back. But usually, unless you're real heavy, you don't even use that gear. You start up here and 1, 2, 3, 4, pop up the range, and then come back up here. In this truck, because it's a 10-speed, even though you can start here, you go through it, and then you flip your range up, and that brings you to 6 instead of coming up here and being in 5th. So I was having a little trouble getting used to driving it that way. Also, the shifter's a lot different in this. It's kind of a long reach for me in this truck compared to my cabover. So definitely something to get used to, because really the only truck I've driven is the cabover. So just getting used to the length of the tractor and the different transmission and the weird place for the shifter. I'll show you inside. He's still got all of his stuff in it, but I'll show you inside of it here. It's also very weird to have a hood in front of you. But yeah, let's see what it... I actually didn't even check the mileage on it. Let's see what that is. 236,663. I imagine it's probably... Well, I'm not really sure. Yeah, it has a 1,000,000 mile spot on it. This may be super low miles. It don't look like a low mileage truck like it says it is, so I'm not really sure on that. I may try to plug in a computer in it and see if I can pull the mileage off the ECM, because I really don't think that it's only got 236,000 miles, but I've been wrong before. It's held some air all night. I drove it yesterday, like maybe around lunchtime. It still has some air on it, so it's holding air okay. I mean, better than my truck does, that's for sure. But yeah, see, this shifter's way down here. I'm not used to having one down low like that. And it's got a little bunk back here. Be nice to be able to climb in that thing without climbing over my doghouse all the time. Just walk through the little middle here. I wouldn't keep all this stuff in the middle like this because I'd like to have space to stretch my legs and stuff. Not a stand-up truck, and I don't need that. I don't have it now. It'll still be better than what I've got. But yeah, I'm also not a big fan of having the CB down here. I'd probably put it up here. I can't because the speaker's on the bottom. Not that this one even turns on. I don't know why it's not turning on. I tried messing with it a little bit. I don't know if there's a switch somewhere. But as far as everything that it needs, AC's got no Freon in it. Oh, it does have a PTO right here. I didn't even see that before. Maybe it does have a wet line. I'll have to look now. I can't see. Maybe it had a blower tank on it. I know Oakley runs tanks. I don't know if they run blower tanks. Maybe set up for wetline already. You can see it does have an oil leak on it. I don't think so. It has a PTO. I don't know what that PTO is supposed to drive. I'd have to get up underneath it more than I have. Get up on the pad, concrete pad. But yeah, so needs the AC recharged in it. Needs has an oil leak up by the turbo. And it sounds like it might have an exhaust leak. I'm not really sure. It has like a little ticking sound. I'm not going to start it up right now. I may get a chance later today and I'll put that in the video if I do. But I don't own the truck, so I'm not going to be starting it up all the time, messing around with it just yet. Obviously, a couple of cosmetic things would be nice to get around to. One thing I would probably like to do is, well, can't really, maybe add more catwalk to it, because when you're hooking up, especially like my lowboy trailer, the front of the trailer is like here, so you'd have to like kind of walk over this whole thing to get to it. So that doesn't feel too bad. This has a funky suspension on it. I've never seen this kind of suspension where it has these big flat bars for the I don't know what they call them. They usually call them like a torque rod or whatever, but it doesn't have rods. It just has these big bars in it. I've not seen one like this. And it almost is set up like a Kenworth 8-bag, but it's only got 4 bags on it. But one's in the back and one's all the way to the front. And it's got a bar on each side to line up the axles. I really don't know what that's all about, if it's any good or not. This is the only truck I've ever seen with it on there. It may be more common, I just haven't seen enough of them. But it looks like it's some type of a Hendrickson setup. It's got the logo on there. And this side's got a different part here. If you come around the other side, somebody's replaced it with something different. Same kind of suspension, I guess, but I don't know. I don't think that's originally what it had on there, because you saw the other side is a different color too. So I really don't know what that's all about. But yeah, so it sounds like it might have an exhaust leak. It does not take DEF fluid, but it does have a filter on the exhaust, which my pickup truck had originally. I took that off. You can see there's lines and stuff that run to it. I don't know if it's been deleted or not. I'd like to find out about that, because this truck is extremely quiet to the point where it's hard to drive without looking at the dash. And I don't like to stare at the gauges going down the road. I like to see where I'm going. I need to hear it a little bit to know if I'm in the right gear. So I may try to take that can off it, make it a little bit louder, just to make it easier to drive, not for the sake of being loud. I'm not really even sure that an ISX sounds that good straight piped, but just a little bit more sound would be good. But it's got kind of a funny exhaust setup here. You see the exhaust pipe is actually welded to this mount, and then it comes up. So I'm not sure, it looks awful rusty. I'm sure it's gonna have to get replaced. I'm not sure what that'll all take. I may be able to have that cut off and then weld on another pipe there, which I guess would be fine. I can get a piece of pipe like this. I bought a piece of pipe like this before and returned it. I may be able to buy this piece of pipe, and if that's the case, then that'll help with that rust, and I can have it welded in there just like it is. And then I need another piece to get rid of that filter, of course. But yeah, Tires are decent except for back here. It's got these tires on it. Something happened. It looks like it lost its tread. Something drug on it, or I don't know what. But I wouldn't really feel super comfortable running this truck like this. I'd be afraid I'd lose the whole thing. So I may replace one of these tires, if not both. But these are 22.5s. I think I get a couple of these for not too much money. But yeah, I don't know. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think. But maybe by the time I put this video out, I may own this truck. I'm not sure. But it'll be nice. It'll be nice to have another truck. And then in the future, I wouldn't feel too terribly guilty about putting a driver in the truck like this. Because, you know, it's not a terribly expensive truck. It's not a super desirable truck. I mean, I think, honestly, the front ends of these things are kind of ugly, if I'm just being totally honest. But it's not about the way it looks. It's about making money. So we'll have to see.